Where did Zinfandel really come from? Why is it considered one of America's most iconic varieties? And how did it arrive here in California? Come discover the answers with me on this episode of Zinfandel Live. You can see with your own eyes the history of Zinfandel in California through the old vines planted in the state, some of which are up to 100 or 150 years old. Many of the original Zinfandel vineyards in California are still producing wines that you can drink today.
So California has an amazing legacy. It has some very, very old vineyards. It has vineyards that go back into the 1800s. They are treasures. They produce remarkably good wine. It's really the history, part of the history of California. It's part of what makes this wine particularly interesting. Zinfandel arrived in California in 1852. By 1888, it was the most planted grape in the state. The fact that it still remains, some of the vineyards that were planted that long ago still remain, is remarkable.
Zinfandel is a uniquely Californian wine arriving here during the gold rush in the 1850s. Zinfandel survived Prohibition and phylloxera, a disease carried by an insect that demolished many vineyards in California. Zinfandel is the third largest wine grape variety planted in California. Most of California's oldest vineyards are Zinfandel.
People knew where other varieties originated, but they didn't know where Zinfandel came from. For a couple decades, it was the mystery grape from California. We know it didn't originate in California, but we wanted to call it our own mystery grape. Through DNA tracking, they tracked it even more closely. So it did originate in Croatia.
The Red Grape Vineyard has the distinction of having created the term old vine in connection with Zinfandel. And for us, it was the start of a recognition that these old vine vineyards are really special and unique. Partly because they're unique field blend vineyards. Each vineyard has its own distinct personality, and just because they're they produce such beautiful, intense fruit. And there's something about the soul of just working with these really old vines. Had a vineyard manager I worked with talking about, back in the 1800s they were farming these vineyards with horses and plows, and now we're here today in the same vines. And it just feels really good to have respect for these old plants that have been there much longer than I have.
Most, I would say probably 80% of the Zinfandel production is old vine.
I'd say more than that.
Many of the vines are over 100 years old.
Yeah, we have stencils here at the winery that my grandparents, when they were making the wine, it was a California Burgundy or a California Claret. And 80% of it was Zinfandel, but it wasn't labeled as Zinfandel. But it seemed like the best blend that came from the North Coast had the majority of Zinfandel in that blend. It wasn't until really the 60s and 70s that Zinfandel started popping up on the label as a variety.
The Trinchero family back in the late 60s, they started sourcing fruit from Amador County. They would concentrate the fruit using a process called saignée, which just means to bleed. So you bleed off some of the juice to concentrate your skin to juice ratio, which gives Zinfandel that great intensity. They would take that wine and they would ferment it to dryness. In the early 70s, one of those fermentations stuck. So it was leaving the wine with low alcohol and high sugar. So this light pink wine, because we don't waste anything, it still went to bottle, and it became incredibly popular. So that started the fad of white Zinfandel. The Trincheros were going out and sourcing as much Zinfandel as they could, saving so many of those vines that we get to enjoy today.
The white Zinfandel actually exposed the name because they were making so much of it and selling it all over the country. But then when you zero in on it, it really should be a red wine.
Then you just had to teach people that it was actually a red grape.
A red grape, yeah, exactly.
1942, so it's right after Prohibition, and my dad was 13 years old in 1942. Felt like he needed to step up and make some extra money for the family. And he thought, why not make some wine and sell it without a license or permit? He was selling it over a party line phone system. People call in and go, hey Aldo, I need 3 dozen eggs and a gallina nera, black chicken, his secret code word for that jug of Zin that he sold for $1. He delivered it on Friday nights in his 1940 Studebaker. He did it for 25 years. And it was some of the best Zinfandel in Napa at the time, I tell you. But in '91, we went legit, and I said, okay, Dad, we're gonna do this right. and he was all for it.
The future of Zinfandel. Wish I had my crystal ball. I think that Zinfandel is here to stay. There's no question about that.
What I hope for Zinfandel is that people kind of continue this heritage, this legacy. I'm hoping that we're able to preserve the old vines that are already here, and that also people are getting so excited about Zinfandel in the future that they're trying to plant their old vine vineyard that's going to be around in 100 years still.
I would like to see Zinfandel as a solid player in the firmament of the wine pantheon. As we move into the next generations of wine drinkers, Zinfandel needs to be learned about and take a place. I'm very confident that Zinfandel will be in the mix. It has been in California for the last 150 years. We've got another 150 years to go with Zinfandel.
Thanks for watching. I hope you learned more about the incredible history of Zinfandel and its journey here to California, where it's become an indelible part of America's winemaking history. Want to learn more about the secrets behind making Zinfandel? Be sure to check out our next episode, where winemakers will share their expertise. If you liked this episode, the entire Zinfandel Live series can be found at zinfandellive.com. We've also partnered with wine.com, where you can purchase some of the wines showcased in this video, along with other curated selections. The link can be found on our website. Please like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and share it with your friends. Thank you for watching.